I returned from military deployment to find 83 luxury condos built on my inherited land, only to discover the corrupt HOA had forged my signature while I was overseas. When they saw Precision Demolition Services on my truck door, their faces went pale. But could they imagine what I had planned for them? I couldn't believe my eyes. There they stood, rows of fancy condos with shiny windows and fresh paint, all sitting on land that belonged to me. My hands shook as I gripped the property map tighter. After 18 months serving my country overseas, I'd come home to find strangers living on the 5 acres my grandfather left me. "Excuse me, sir? Can I help you?" A security guard approached, eyeing me suspiciously. "Yeah, you can tell me why there are buildings on my property." My voice was steady despite my racing heart. The guard's radio crackled. "I've got someone at the south entrance claiming this is his land." Within minutes, a sleek black SUV pulled up. Out stepped a woman in an expensive suit. Her hair pulled back so tight it seemed to stretch her face. She extended a manicured hand. "I'm Eleanor Walsh, president of Sunset Shores Homeowners Association. And you are Mike Reynolds, owner of this land." I didn't take her hand. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Mr. Reynolds, there must be some confusion. This development has been in progress for over a year. All proper channels were followed." I pulled out my phone, showing her photos of the empty land taken before my deployment. "No confusion. This is my grandfather's property. I have the deed right here." I patted my jacket pocket. Eleanor's smile faded slightly. "Perhaps we should discuss this in my office rather than making a scene?" As we walked toward the community center, I noticed residents peeking through windows. One woman marched straight toward us. "Eleanor, my sprinklers still aren't working, and maintenance keeps ignoring my calls." She stopped when she saw me. "Who's this?" "Just a small property matter, Diane. I'll handle your sprinklers this afternoon." Diane looked me up and down with narrowed eyes. "You're not moving in, are you? Because we have strict rules about lawn care and exterior modifications." "Actually, Mr. Reynolds was just leaving." Eleanor cut in smoothly. Inside her office, Eleanor's demeanor changed. She slid a stack of papers across her desk. "These are the rezoning approvals and purchase documents. As you can see, everything is in order." I flipped through them, stopping cold when I saw a signature at the bottom. My signature, except I never signed anything. "This isn't my signature." Eleanor sighed. "Mr. Reynolds, we sent multiple notices to your address. When we received signed approval, we proceeded legally. I was deployed overseas. I never received any notices, and I certainly never signed this." She leaned forward. "Look, these condos house 83 families. People with children, elderly parents. What exactly do you expect to happen here?" My phone buzzed. It was a text from my business partner. "Welcome home, boss. When can you come by the office? New demolition contracts waiting for your signature." Eleanor's eyes caught the message preview. Her face went pale as she noticed my company logo on my phone case. Precision Demolition Services. "You're in the demolition business?" Her voice wavered. I stood up. "I am. And I don't appreciate finding my property demolished and rebuilt without my permission." "Mr. Reynolds, be reasonable." "I'm going to be very reasonable. I'll have my lawyer contact yours by the end of the day. In the meantime, I suggest you start figuring out how to explain to your board why you built luxury condos on stolen land." As I walked out, Diane from earlier blocked my path. "I heard you arguing. Who do you think you are, causing trouble in our peaceful community?" "I'm the guy who owns the dirt under your feet. And I'd start packing if I were you." I climbed into my truck. The words, "Precision Demolition Services," emblazoned on the door. As I drove away, I watched Eleanor and Diane huddled together in my rearview mirror, both on their phones, gesturing frantically. That night, I spread my grandfather's old property maps across my kitchen table. The boundaries were clear. The development encroached a full 200 feet onto my land. I called my old army buddy, now a lawyer. "Tom, they built condos on my land while I was deployed, and forged my signature on the documents. That's federal fraud, Mike, especially since you were on active duty." The Service Members Civil Relief Act gives you special protections. How fast can we move on this? I'll file emergency injunctions tomorrow. But Mike, this won't be easy. HOAs have deep pockets and good connections. So do I. The next morning, I drove to the county records office. The clerk, an older woman named Margaret, remembered my grandfather. Such a shame what they've done to that beautiful property, she said, pulling the original deeds. Your grandfather wanted you to build your dream home there. You know about the condos? She lowered her voice. Everyone knows, but nobody says anything. Richard Walsh, Eleanor's husband. He's got half the county board in his pocket. As she photocopied the original property surveys, she slipped me a note with a name and number. Call this person at the planning department. They've been waiting for someone to challenge the Walshes. That afternoon, I parked across from the condos, taking photos of the property line markers that had been moved. A tap on my window startled me. A woman about my age stood there, press badge hanging around her neck. I'm Olivia Bennett, Pinecrest Gazette. Are you the owner fighting the Sunset Shores development? News travels fast. In small towns, gossip travels faster than light. She smiled. Mind if I ask you a few questions? Before I could answer, a police cruiser pulled up. The officer approached, hand resting on his holster. Sir, we've had complaints about someone harassing residents and taking photos of children. That's ridiculous, Olivia interjected. I've been watching him. He's just taking pictures of property markers. The officer looked uncomfortable. Just doing my job, ma'am. We got 3 separate calls. I showed him my property deed and military ID. I own this land. They built on it illegally while I was deployed overseas. He studied the documents, then handed them back. My brother's in the Marines. This kind of thing. It isn't right. He lowered his voice. Watch yourself with the Walshes. They don't play fair. As he drove away, Olivia's eyes gleamed. Now I'm definitely interested in your story. The Walshes calling the cops on a veteran defending his own property? That's headline material. I'm not looking for headlines. I just want my land back. What are you going to do? Tear down 83 homes. I looked at the families moving about, children playing on a playground that sat squarely on my property. I don't know yet, but I know what's mine. Little did I realize, Eleanor Walsh was watching from her office window, already planning her next move against me. 3 days passed in a blur of legal paperwork and phone calls. I woke to pounding on my front door. 6:30 in the morning. Police! Open up! 2 officers stood on my porch, along with Eleanor Walsh and a man in an expensive suit I hadn't met before. Mr. Reynolds, the older officer said, we have a complaint that you've been making threats against Sunset Shores residents. That's absolutely false. Eleanor stepped forward. Multiple residents heard you say they should start packing, and that you were going to demolish their homes. The man beside her nodded. I'm Richard Walsh, Sunset Shores developer. My wife shared your threatening behavior with me. Our residents are terrified. I took a deep breath. Officer, I informed Mrs. Walsh that I own the property where her condos are built. I did tell one resident she might want to consider her options given the legal situation. That's not a threat. It's reality. He owns a demolition company. Eleanor pointed to my truck in the driveway. He's planning to bulldoze homes with families inside. The younger officer snickered, then quickly composed himself. Ma'am, owning a demolition company isn't a crime. I invited them inside and showed them my military service records, property deeds, and the legal filings my lawyer had prepared. The signatures on their documents are forgeries. I was serving overseas when they claim I approved this development. The officers exchanged glances. The older one turned to the Walshes. This appears to be a civil matter. I suggest you both work through the proper legal channels. When they left, Richard Walsh lingered on my porch. You have no idea who you're dealing with, Reynolds. I've built half this town. And now you've built on my land. Bad move. His friendly mask slipped. Do you think anyone will take your side against us? We provide jobs, tax revenue. You're just one angry man. An angry man with the law on his side. That evening, a notice appeared on my door. Emergency HOA meeting. Attendance mandatory. I called Tom, my lawyer. Can they force me to attend? I don't belong to their HOA. They can't force you, but it might be smart to see what they're planning. I'll come with you. The community center was packed when we arrived. Whispers followed us as we took seats in the back. Eleanor stood at the podium, Richard beside her. Thank you all for coming on such short notice, she began. As you may have heard, we're facing a challenge to our community's very existence. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Eleanor dramatically pointed in my direction. This man claims that our homes are built on his land. He owns a demolition company and has made it clear he intends to take action. The crowd turned to stare. Diane Thompson, the woman from my first day back, stood up. I have a question. If this man owns the land, why didn't he say something when construction started? Why wait until families moved in? Before I could answer, Richard stepped forward. Excellent question. The truth is, Mr. Reynolds approved the development, then changed his mind after seeing how valuable the property has become. I stood up. That's a lie. I was deployed overseas with the military. I never received any notices, and my signature was forged on your documents. A murmur ran through the crowd. An elderly man near the front spoke up. My grandson is in the army. Is it true you were serving our country when this happened? Eleanor quickly cut in. Mr. Reynolds' employment is irrelevant. The fact is, we have signed documents. Forged documents, Tom corrected. And 83 families now call Sunset Shores home. Would you really make them homeless over a property dispute? The mood in the room shifted as people looked at their neighbors worriedly. I scanned the faces, seeing fear and anger directed at me. I stepped into the center of the room. I didn't create this situation. The Walshes did, when they built on land that wasn't theirs to develop. They didn't just steal from me. They sold you homes they had no right to sell. Olivia Bennett slipped in through a side door, notepad in hand. Eleanor noticed her and frowned. This is a private meeting. Press isn't allowed. Actually, Olivia replied, HOA meetings must be open to the public under State Law 33 to 1804, unless they're board-only executive sessions. Richard's face reddened. This is an emergency session, which still must follow open meeting laws, Olivia finished, taking a seat. I continued, I understand everyone here bought their homes in good faith. You're not the ones I have a problem with. Then what do you want? Diane demanded. Justice. Accountability. I looked directly at the Walshes, and to know why they specifically targeted my property while I was serving our country. Richard stepped toward me. This is ridiculous. We followed every legal procedure, including forging my signature. I pulled out copies of the documents. I've already filed a complaint with the FBI about this forgery. Falsifying documents while the victim is on active military duty carries enhanced federal penalties. The room went silent. Eleanor whispered urgently to Richard. Tom stood up beside me. My client isn't interested in making families homeless. He's interested in holding accountable those who committed fraud. Diane wasn't satisfied. So what happens to our homes? Our life savings are tied up in these condos. Before I could answer, Richard cut in. Nothing will happen to your homes. This is a baseless claim that will be thrown out of court. Is it baseless? A man stood up near the back. I'm Kevin Zhang from the county surveyor's office. I've reviewed the original property lines. He held up official-looking maps. The southeastern portion of this development, approximately 38 units, is indeed built on Mr. Reynolds' land. Chaos erupted. People shouted questions, some directed at me, others at the Walshes. Through the commotion, I noticed Richard slip out a side door, phone pressed to his ear. Eleanor struggled to regain control. Everyone please. This is just one opinion. Our surveys show different results. Kevin raised his voice. Your survey was conducted by Walsh Development's in-house team, not an independent firm. The original property markers were moved. More shouting. Diane pushed through the crowd toward me. You can't do this. My daughter just bought one of those units. She's pregnant with my first grandchild. I'm sorry, but I didn't create this situation. You and your demolition company just want to tear everything down, she cried. Tom put his hand on my shoulder. We should go. This is getting ugly. As we moved toward the exit, Olivia fell into step beside us. I need to interview you properly. This story is bigger than I thought. Outside, Richard Walsh was waiting by my truck. Two large men stood with him. Reynolds, let's talk business. Name your price. This isn't about money. He laughed. Everything's about money. 10,000 a unit. That's over 800,000 for land you weren't even using. The land is worth more than that, and you know it. Fine. 1 million cash. Walk away. Forget the forgery allegations. The mention of cash payments in front of witnesses showed how confident he was in his power. I shook my head. See you in court. As we walked away, one of Richard's men called out, Think about your demolition business, Reynolds. Be a shame if your equipment had accidents. Tom turned. Did you just threaten my client? Because I'd love to add witness intimidation to our complaint. Back at my house, Olivia reviewed my documents while Tom made calls. This goes beyond just your property, Olivia said. I've heard rumors about the Walshes pushing out other landowners, but never had proof. Tom hung up the phone. Judge Simmons is hearing our emergency injunction tomorrow at 9. The Walshes have been served. My doorbell rang. A sheriff's deputy stood outside with papers in hand. Michael Reynolds? This is a cease and desist order preventing you from entering Sunset Shores property or contacting residents. He handed me the documents. You're also prohibited from operating demolition equipment within 500 feet of the development. As the deputy left, we reviewed the order. It was signed by Judge Henderson, Richard Walsh's former law partner. They're trying to keep you away from your own property, Tom said, already typing on his laptop. We'll get this overturned tomorrow. Olivia's phone buzzed repeatedly with messages. Something's happening at Sunset Shores. Multiple residents texting me. We turned on the local news. A reporter stood in front of the condos. Breaking news from Sunset Shores, where residents have just been informed that their homes may be in jeopardy due to a property dispute. Developer Richard Walsh has announced an emergency residents meeting tonight to discuss defending our community from outside threats. The camera panned to show residents gathering, many looking angry and frightened. Among them was Diane, holding a sign that read, Protect our homes from demolition man. They're turning the residents against you, Tom said grimly. It's more than that, Olivia added. They're creating a public narrative where you're the villain threatening innocent families. Classic Walsh tactic. I stared at the screen, watching more people join the gathering, their faces worried and angry, all directed at me. This just got a whole lot harder, didn't it? Yes, Tom admitted. But we have something they don't. What's that? The truth. And tomorrow we show it to the judge. Blood pounded in my ears as I pushed through the courthouse doors. Camera flashes lit up the hallway. Someone shoved a microphone in my face. Mr. Reynolds, will you really demolish homes with families inside? I kept walking, Tom's hand on my shoulder guiding me forward. The courtroom doors loomed ahead, where Judge Martinez would decide if my injunction against Sunset Shores would stand. Ignore them, Tom whispered. Remember, stick to the facts. Inside, the Walshes sat with 4 lawyers in expensive suits. Eleanor wore a conservative blue dress that screamed, trustworthy community leader. Richard's face turned red when he saw me. Diane Thompson sat directly behind them with other angry residents. Judge Martinez entered, a stern-faced woman with reading glasses perched on her nose. This is an emergency hearing for case number 47293, Reynolds versus Sunset Shores Homeowners Association. I've reviewed the filings. Let's begin. For 2 hours, lawyers argued back and forth. The Walsh's team showed doctored photos claiming construction had started before my deployment. Their surveyor swore their property lines were correct. A parade of residents testified about their fear of losing their homes. When my turn came, I simply presented my grandfather's original deed, military deployment papers, and the county's official survey. Your Honor, I said, I never received notice of this development. I never signed any documents. I was serving my country when the Walshes built on my land and sold it to unsuspecting families. Judge Martinez studied the signatures on the documents. These don't appear to match Mr. Reynolds' military records. Eleanor Walsh stood up. Your Honor, if I may. You may not. Judge Martinez cut her off. I find sufficient evidence to grant a temporary injunction. No further construction will proceed on the disputed property until a full hearing. Richard Walsh exploded. This is outrageous. Do you know how much money? Mr. Walsh, control yourself or I'll hold you in contempt. Outside the courtroom, reporters swarmed us. Olivia pushed through the crowd. Mike, I found something you need to see right away. We huddled in a small conference room down the hall. Olivia opened her laptop and played a video. This is security footage from County Hall from last year. Watch. The grainy video showed Richard Walsh entering the records department after hours with a security guard. They removed files from a cabinet, then returned different papers. That's the night before they filed for the development permit, Olivia explained. The guard admitted they replaced your property records with altered versions. Tom leaned forward. This is huge. With this evidence. The door burst open. Diane Thompson stood there, eyes wild with anger. You got what you wanted. Are you happy now? They just told us our homes might be torn down. I stood up. Diane, no one said anything about tearing down homes. The injunction just stops new construction. Liar. The Walshes said you're forcing everyone out in 30 days. Olivia stepped forward. They're manipulating you, Diane. I'm a reporter. I've seen the court order. It doesn't say anything about evictions. Diane's lips trembled. But Richard said. Richard Walsh is being investigated for document fraud, Tom explained gently. Think about it. Why would he lie about the court order? To turn you against Mike instead of himself. Confusion crossed Diane's face. I don't understand. We paid for our homes. We have deeds. Deeds to property that wasn't legally theirs to sell, I said. But that doesn't mean I want to hurt innocent families. Heavy footsteps approached. Richard Walsh appeared in the doorway with 2 security guards. There you are. Thompson, get away from him. He's dangerous. I stepped forward. The only dangerous person here is you, Walsh. Forging documents. Lying to residents. Careful, Reynolds. Slander is serious. His eyes darted to Olivia's laptop. What are you showing her? Olivia closed her computer. Just some interesting security footage from County Hall. You're quite photogenic breaking into the records office. Richard's face went pale. He grabbed Diane's arm. We're leaving. Now. As they walked away, Diane glanced back at us, doubt written across her face. That night, a brick crashed through my living room window. Attached was a note. Drop the case or next time it's not a brick. I called the police but knew it would lead nowhere. While waiting, I scrolled through my phone and froze at an old photo. Me and Catherine, my ex-wife, standing on my grandfather's land 3 years ago. Catherine, who had worked as a legal assistant before our divorce. Catherine, who knew exactly where my property boundaries lay and how much the land was worth. I dialed Olivia's number. I need you to look into someone for me. My ex-wife, Catherine Reynolds. She might be connected to this somehow. What makes you think that? Just a hunch. She knows the property well, and she wasn't happy when my grandfather left it to me instead of us jointly. 2 days later, Olivia called back. Mike, you need to see this. We met at a coffee shop downtown. She showed me bank records obtained from a courthouse clerk. Catherine received 4 payments of $25,000 from Walsh Development, starting 1 month after your deployment. My coffee cup froze halfway to my lips. She sold me out. There's more. She's been working at Walsh's office under her maiden name. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. I had trusted Catherine with everything, including keys to my grandfather's property box. "We need to talk to her," Olivia said. "She might be willing to testify about what she knows." "She won't. Catherine would never admit to doing something wrong." Olivia squeezed my hand. "People surprise you sometimes, especially when their own freedom is at stake." Before I could respond, my phone rang. It was Tom. "Mike, get to my office now. The FBI just called. They're opening an investigation into the Walshes for fraud against a service member." As we raced to Tom's office, I spotted a familiar car parked outside, Catherine's red Audi. My heart pounded as I pushed through the door. There she sat, looking smaller than I remembered, her eyes red from crying. "Hello, Mike," she said softly. "I think it's time I told you what really happened." Catherine's hands shook as she clutched her coffee cup. "I never meant for it to go this far." We sat in Tom's office, me, Catherine, Tom, and Olivia. FBI agent Torres listened from the corner, recorder running. "Start from the beginning," Agent Torres prompted. Catherine took a deep breath. "After we divorced, I couldn't find good work. Richard Walsh approached me at a bar one night. He knew who I was, who Mike was. He offered me a job." "Doing what?" I asked. "Information. At first, just details about which service members own valuable land. Later, access to documents." She wouldn't meet my eyes. "He said they'd make legitimate offers." I believed him. "Until when?" Agent Torres asked. "Until I saw the forged signatures. I confronted Richard. He laughed and said no one would ever know." Anger bubbled inside me. "You gave them access to my grandfather's property box. The one thing he wanted me to have." A tear slid down Catherine's cheek. "I'm sorry, Mike. I was angry about the divorce. About getting nothing from your grandfather's will. It felt like payback at first." Olivia leaned forward. "What changed your mind?" "Yesterday, Richard and Eleanor were talking in the office. They didn't know I was there. They said once they won the case, they'd develop the rest of Mike's land too. That they'd take care of him if he kept fighting." Catherine shuddered. It sounded like a threat. Agent Torres closed his notebook. "Mrs. Bennett, we'll need you to sign a formal statement. In exchange for your cooperation, the U.S. Attorney may consider leniency." After Catherine left with the agent, I sat in stunned silence. "This changes everything," Tom said. "With Catherine's testimony and the security footage, we can bring criminal charges." "But what about the residents?" I asked. "They're still stuck in the middle." Olivia's phone buzzed. She checked it and her eyes widened. "You're not going to believe this. Richard Walsh just announced an emergency meeting at Sunset Shores. He's telling everyone they need to pay $50,000 each immediately for legal defense funds or risk losing their homes. He's milking them for more money before he runs," Tom realized. We raced to Sunset Shores. The community center overflowed with angry, frightened residents. Richard and Eleanor stood at the front, collecting checks. "This is totally illegal," Olivia whispered as we slipped in the back. "They can't demand payments like this." Diane spotted us and hurried over. "What are you doing here? Haven't you caused enough trouble?" "Diane, they're scamming you again," I explained. "There's no legal defense fund. They're planning to take your money and disappear." "More lies," she hissed, but doubt crept into her voice. I pointed to the front. "Look how they're taking cash and checks. No receipts, no paperwork. Does that seem legitimate to you?" Eleanor's voice rose above the crowd. "Everyone, please. Your contributions will ensure we can fight off this attack on our community." I couldn't stay silent anymore. "That's not true," I shouted, stepping forward. The room fell silent. Richard's face twisted with fury. "Security, remove this man. Before you do," I continued, "you should know the FBI is investigating the Walshes for fraud. They forged documents to build on my land, and now they're stealing more of your money." Chaos erupted. People shouted questions. Richard lunged toward the exit, clutching a box of checks. "Stop him!" Diane yelled, surprising everyone. She blocked the door. "Give us back our money." Two men grabbed Richard. The box fell, scattering checks across the floor. Eleanor tried to slip out a side door, but Olivia blocked her path. Going somewhere, Mrs. Walsh? I think the FBI would like a word. Police sirens wailed outside. Agent Torres entered with 4 officers. Richard and Eleanor Walsh, you're under arrest for fraud, forgery, and conspiracy against a service member. As they were handcuffed, Richard snarled at me. This isn't over, Reynolds. I've got friends in high places. Not for long, Agent Torres replied. We're investigating those friends too. Later that night, the residents gathered in the community center again. This time, to hear the truth from me. I know you're scared, I began. You bought homes in good faith. You didn't know they were built on stolen land. So what happens now? Diane asked. Do we lose everything? I shook my head. That's not what I want. You're victims too. Tom stood beside me. We've prepared a proposal. Mr. Reynolds will sell the land to the current homeowners at a fair market value, minus what you've already paid the Walshes. Murmurs spread through the crowd. And for veterans or active service members, I added, I'll reduce the price by an additional 25%. A man in the back stood up. Why would you do this? You could make more money selling to developers. Because it's the right thing to do. My grandfather wanted this land to help secure my future. Helping 83 families keep their homes honors his memory better than tearing everything down. For the first time in weeks, I saw smiles instead of anger directed my way. Diane approached me after the meeting. I misjudged you. We all did. Easy mistake. Most demolition experts aren't known for building communities. She laughed. What about the extra land? The part they hadn't developed yet? I looked out the window at the trees beyond the condos. I'm keeping that part. My grandfather wanted me to build a home there someday. Next to all of us? Even after how we treated you. Everyone deserves a second chance, I said, thinking of Catherine and her tearful confession. Even me. As I walked to my truck, Olivia fell into step beside me. That was quite a speech. Very generous offer. It wasn't just generosity. It was the right solution. She smiled. You know, this story could use a happy ending. Mind if I follow up in a few months? See how Sunset Shores is doing under new management. I looked back at the community center, where residents were already forming committees to handle the transition. Something had shifted tonight. Instead of enemies, we were neighbors finding a path forward. I'd like that, I said. I have a feeling this story is just beginning. What neither of us knew was that Richard Walsh had made one final move before his arrest. A move that would soon test our newfound community in ways none of us could imagine. Lightning cracked across the sky as I parked outside Catherine's coffee shop. Through the rain-streaked windows, I could see her wiping down counters, unaware I was about to walk back into her life. My hands trembled as I reached for the door handle. Not from anger, but from the shock of betrayal that still felt fresh. The bell jingled as I entered. Catherine froze, cloth still pressed against the marble counter. Mike! Her voice was barely a whisper. I didn't expect to see you. Funny how people keep saying that to me lately. I shook rain from my jacket. We need to talk. We're closed. Her eyes darted to the door. This can't wait. I placed the folder Olivia had given me on the counter. I know what you did. Catherine's shoulders slumped as she looked at the photographs of her meeting with Richard Walsh. How did you find out? Does it matter? You sold information about my property while I was overseas fighting for our country. She flinched at my words. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Richard said they just wanted to make you an offer. And you believed him? The man builds things for a living, Catherine. He knows exactly what land is worth. Rain pounded harder against the windows as Catherine's eyes filled with tears. After the divorce, I couldn't keep up with payments. The bank was going to take the coffee shop. So you decided to take my land instead. I kept my voice even, though inside I was screaming. Richard paid me $50,000 for information about your deployment schedule and property boundaries. She couldn't meet my eyes. He promised it would all be legal. The bell jingled again. Eleanor Walsh stood in the doorway, water dripping from her expensive raincoat. Well, isn't this cozy? Her voice was ice. Catherine, you promised he wouldn't discover our arrangement. Catherine's face hardened. And you promised this would be handled legally. You said Mike would be compensated fairly. Eleanor laughed, the sound sharp and cruel. Legal is whatever we say it is in Pinecrest. Richard has judges in his pocket and the mayor on speed dial. Not anymore. I revealed the small recording device on my table. Eleanor's eyes widened as she lunged for it. You wouldn't dare use that. Her perfectly manicured nails scratched at my hand. From the back room, Olivia Bennett emerged with her camera rolling. Actually, he would. And so would I. Eleanor backed away. This is illegal. You can't record without consent. One-party consent state, Olivia replied with a smile. And Mike here consented plenty. Catherine looked between us, confusion clear on her face. What's happening? Justice, I said simply. Eleanor's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then smiled suddenly. It doesn't matter what you record. Richard has taken care of everything. Meaning what? I demanded. Meaning your little demolition company just lost its operating license. Effective immediately. Tragic safety violations were discovered. She checked her perfectly polished nails. And Judge Henderson has signed an order preventing you from coming within 500 feet of Sunset Shores. Forever. The coffee shop door swung open again. This time, FBI agent Torres stepped in, badge already out. Eleanor Walsh? We have some questions about fraudulent real estate transactions and intimidation of military personnel. Eleanor's smug smile vanished. Do you know who my husband is? Yes, ma'am. He's the man we arrested 20 minutes ago at your office. Agent Torres nodded to two more agents who had entered behind her. We'll need you to come with us. As the agents led Eleanor away, Catherine sank into a chair. What happens to me now? I looked at her. This woman I had once loved. That depends on whether you help make this right. Olivia touched my arm gently. Mike, there's something else you should know. The residents are being evicted tomorrow. All 83 families. What? That wasn't part of any court order. Richard's doing his final act of revenge. He's claiming structural issues require immediate evacuation. She showed me text messages from panicked residents. Diane Thompson's pregnant daughter has nowhere to go. I stared at the rain-soaked street where FBI agents were helping Eleanor into a black SUV. Sometimes winning feels a lot like losing. I need to make a call, I said, reaching for my phone. Bulldozers lined up along the edge of the property, their yellow paint bright against the early morning fog. News vans clustered nearby, reporters sipping coffee and checking cameras. I stood watching from my truck, the weight of what came next heavy on my shoulders. Tom approached, legal papers in hand. All signed by the judge. You're officially back in control of your property. Did they all get out? I asked, scanning the condo buildings. Last family left an hour ago. He followed my gaze. You sure about this, Mike? No one would blame you for tearing it all down. Before I could answer, Diane Thompson's car screeched to a halt beside us. She jumped out, still wearing slippers. You monster! She screamed, rushing toward me. My daughter is 8 months pregnant and sleeping on my couch. Are you happy now? Mrs. Thompson. Tom began, but I raised a hand to stop him. Diane, I need you to listen carefully. Where are the other residents staying? She blinked, thrown off by my question. Wherever they can. Hotels, friends' houses. Some are sleeping in their cars. I handed her a stack of papers. Give these to everyone. They need to be back here by noon. What is this? She looked at the top sheet suspiciously. New housing contracts. Legal ones this time. Tom smiled beside me. Mike's not demolishing the condos, Mrs. Thompson. He's selling them to their current residents, at half the market price. Diane's mouth opened and closed several times. But the news said. The news got it wrong. I nodded toward the bulldozers. Those aren't here to tear down homes. They're clearing land for a community playground and garden on the undeveloped portion of my property. Tears filled Diane's eyes. Why would you do this? After everything we did to you. You didn't do anything to me. The Walshes did. I looked toward the condo where her daughter lived. No child should start life homeless because adults couldn't play fair. As Diane rushed off to spread the word, Olivia approached with her camera crew. Ready for your statement? As I'll ever be. The cameras rolled as residents began returning, clutching the papers I'd sent, hope and confusion on their faces. Catherine stood at the edge of the crowd, helping an elderly couple with their bags. Today marks a new beginning for Sunset Shores, I said into the microphones. The FBI investigation revealed that the Walshes forged documents and bribed officials to build on my land. But the families who bought these homes did nothing wrong. Murmurs spread through the growing crowd. That's why I'm selling each unit to its current owner at half price, with special discounts for veterans and first responders. The new Sunset Shores will be resident-owned, not controlled by developers who put profit over people. Cheers erupted. Agent Torres smiled from beside her FBI vehicle. What about the Walshes? Someone shouted. They'll have their day in court, I replied. But today isn't about them. It's about rebuilding trust in this community. As the cameras turned away, Diane approached with her pregnant daughter. I misjudged you, she admitted. We all did. Easy mistake, I replied with a small smile. Most demolition experts don't usually build communities. Later that evening, as sunset painted the sky in brilliant orange, I walked the property line where it all began. Olivia joined me, her press badge now tucked away. You could have made millions selling this land to another developer, she said. Money isn't everything. No, but it's not nothing. You gave up a lot. I watched as residents moved furniture back into their homes, neighbors helping neighbors. Catherine was there too, organizing volunteers. I gained something better, I said. My grandfather wanted this land to create something lasting. Now it will. Olivia's hand found mine in the fading light. The story's getting national attention. Demolition Man builds community instead of tearing it down. You're going to be famous. I laughed. I just want to be at peace. And are you? At peace. I thought about Catherine's betrayal, now softened by her efforts to make amends. About Diane's transformation from my biggest critic to grateful ally. About the land that had nearly torn us all apart now bringing people together. Getting there, I replied, watching as lights came on in homes that rightfully belonged to their owners at last. One brick at a time.